that you believe is coming. All that you believe is
Hi, I want to talk about art, so I'm going to improvise a song. Never played this before. When the words come into my heart, I just have to get out of the way, and I don't know why. I can sing, but I can't fly. Well, I legitimately did not. I've never played that before. But sounds pretty cool. Let me put my guitar down. You like a crash sound right there. I want to talk about art and why I think art is a vital thing to be understood, to be grokked, if you don't want to be one of the left behind. Sorry, I don't know why I'm veering into end of days Christianity, but I know why. Anyway, so I want to talk about art, and the way I view art is it is a form of channeling, a form of improvisational flowing, and that is a very spiritual thing, and like largely misunderstood by our culture, which has turned art into a commodity and mass-produced art. So we have the artist who makes a work of art, and then it's turned into a trillion copies. And that model tends to make us focus on the thing of artness. But I think what is much more important is to think of art as a process. Much like we thought of meditation in the Pisces age, creative artistry should be thought of as the meditation for now, because we are in a yang, or yang, I guess is the proper pronunciation, I don't know. Anyway, we're in a positive age where we were in a negative age before, and so the meditation is a negative activity, but we need positive activities now. And so people like that guy back there, John Lennon, what he did was he loved to songwrite, improvise, let the mood of now speak through his channelings, and then he would capture those improvisational channelings into a very like simplistic structure. And that's a super, super important part about the Aquarian artistic thing, is to keep the structure rather minimal. John Lennon said he only really ever liked rock and roll, and the reason I think that he said that is because there's something really magical about keeping art simple in the age of Aquarius. We already live in labyrinthine, overly complex cities, worlds where we are asked to go to school for 20 years, get a PhD just to work in McDonald's, and really become slaves of our mind just to eat. And this is a problem. This is a major problem, because we've conceived and built this technological world, but it requires maintenance, and it requires us to conform to it in order to live in it. And I've spoken at length about this in other videos, but we now live in a very new world, which should be fairly obvious if you know anything about history, that 250 years ago, people were pulling carriages, using horses, living on farms. Food couldn't travel very far. And then now, hey, I'm talking to the world. So things have changed. And art needs to change as well. And in the 20th century, we saw a real explosion of what are known as popular art forms, things that are really accessible to the common person. Folk music really exploded in popularity. Blues is very simplistic, although there is an extreme complexity and sophistication to the nuance of it, but the basic structure is fairly simple. And what we saw in the 20th century was we were in a new world and we needed new art forms to live in that world that we had wandered into out of the Pisces age and out of the Middle Ages. And there is just something about, I'll just talk about the blues. Well, so blues follows a very straightforward structure. It's typically is just verse, chorus, verse, very simple. Often there's only a necessity of 3, maybe 4 chords. And the complexity lies in the improvisation that is determined by the individual who is playing it. So there is this shared simplistic structure, and then the complexity and the sophistication comes through in the improvisation. And that's not easy. That's definitely not easy, because in order to improvise and spit fire or flow or rap or do anything, one needs to be relaxed. One needs to be really in tune with one's heart. And there's a reason I make these videos not from a script, is to show that I know how to improvise myself. And this is something I've practiced. And I had good enough guides who showed me that there was some magic in like African American improvisational artists. And there's a reason why not everybody can do that shit, is because it requires tailoring one's life to that activity. Just like with meditation, you don't sit down one time, or yoga, you don't do it one time and then become some sort of master. It takes practice. And the same is true for improvisation and for flowing, channeling, spitting, whatever. And I truly believe that the most profound art, the most profound expression comes through improvisationally. And oftentimes we kind of look down on that, especially from the view of exalted white culture, where we love complexity. But there is, I could explain at length, but we live in a world that's like a lantern. It is utterly hard and kind of soulless. It's made of metal and it surrounds us. And a lantern without a flame is a very sad, sad thing. And yet a flame is very chaotic. It's very of the moment. It depends on what oxygen is available. It's dancing. It's unpredictable. And I truly, truly, truly believe that the Aquarian art form should be flame-like, in that everything is controlled in our environment. And so somebody getting on stage and screaming or like singing with incredible melisma, moving up and down like Aretha Franklin, that is magic, that is godlike, and that is the flame that we need to fill our lanterns. And I know so many of you already get this, like that those people who can do that improvisational thing are magic and godlike. And there's a reason we call people rock stars and rock gods and things like that, because they seemingly can get up in front of people, be completely natural, and then improvise amazing things on guitar with voice. piano, or speaking. And I'm not putting myself on that pedestal necessarily, but I want to go back to my original point. You might love John Lennon. You might love the Beatles. You might love Aretha Franklin. You might really enjoy pop music. But it's there for you to try yourself. People become rock stars because they submit to the process of songwriting as a spiritual discipline. And they become enlightened because they continually channel the voice of their heart over and over, day in, night, and continually saying, heart, what do you want to say today? Prioritizing that heart wisdom. And then even if it sounds crazy, even if the mind is like, who's the walrus again? Don't listen to the mind. The heart speaks in the language of absurdity because the heart is infinite and it's bigger than anything the mind can even conceptualize. And so the heart will often say, and the heart being God, will often say things that sound insane to the mind. Like, yeah, really, seriously, who the fuck is the walrus? But it doesn't, we can't be trapped by reasonableness. And we really need to use art on an individual level to grow. The Buddha didn't come saying, Siddhartha Gautama Buddha didn't come saying, oh, I meditated, so that makes me great. You guys can do whatever. No, he understood that he did something that was accessible to humans, and so he taught them the path of meditation, of mindfulness, of becoming nothing, and which evolved into Buddhism, of the three main branches. But art and popular music of the 20th century, specifically blues, and conceptual art, and fiction writing, and poetry, there was an explosion of new art forms which should be thought of as the meditation for now, because they will help you be sane in a world that is overly controlled. So you don't forget that you are bigger than that order. You are bigger than that control. You are a flame that the lantern was built for. You are not a slave to the lantern. You are the reason for this society. And that's all I need to say. I improvised this, and I've practiced a lot of letting my heart take over, and I think eventually my mind just said, all right, I guess I give up. And I've experienced, I guess, what could be called enlightenment. I know for myself, I used to be incredibly afraid of what was on the inside of myself, and I committed over really the last 11 years to songwriting, poetry writing, essay writing from a very, very improvisational standpoint. And I've experienced miracles as a result of committing to that and viewing it as holy. And I strongly advocate for it. And I really think that people like that are not dumb rock stars. They really are free people in an unfree world. And may you find that freedom. May it come through in a song. And it might not sound great the first time, but that it is great. It's not about the output. It's about that you said, hey, heart, here's the mic. So, I'm going to get back to my song. I've already forgotten it, but, This is the ending of the video. Oh, some
ever had is in the middle of your soul. You never needed all the money to eradicate the whole.